What's going on, you guys, and welcome to the channel. Hope everybody's having a freaking awesome day so far. Today, we're going to be taking a look at an old school Dell Inspiron 531S. This is an AMD platform that launched all the way back in 2007, so this thing is definitely old. I can't wait to see what it's got inside. I can't wait to see what games this thing can run. Let's get into it. Alright, you guys, so this is our system in question. Does it work? I don't know. I haven't peeked inside it. I have no idea what this thing actually even has in it. As you guys can tell, this is a super slim system. This thing is super skinny. We're talking like maybe 3.5, 4 inches in diameter. It's so small, but definitely cool. I like the white aesthetic. One thing that I noted is that this system does not have a graphics card. However, I do have a low pro graphics card that I can throw in here once we establish that this thing actually works. So we're gonna go ahead, get this thing hooked up and see if we can get a post. All right, so we got this thing all nice and hooked up. Unfortunately, the cord that I'm using is incredibly short, so I kind of had to hook it up all wonky here. I did recently end up getting rid of my longer cord in a previous sale that I had made, so kind of stuck with the short bus guy. Anyways, we have it all nice and hooked up. Let's see if we can go ahead and get this thing to power on and give us a post. Alright, so we do have a nice pretty blue light there. Let's see if we get a post on the screen. And we do have picture on the screen. Let's see if we can't get into the BIOS here. It does look like I'm getting 0 response from the keyboard here. Let's go ahead and see what it does. So we have overcurrent detected. That's not good. Alright, so our system actually went ahead and shut down. We're gonna go ahead and unplug our mouse and keyboard and see what happens. Alright, so we are going to go ahead and try and turn this thing back on. And let's see if we can get into some kind of screen without it actually shutting itself off. So the fan did spin up. We have 1 beep. We do have picture on the screen, but this thing is definitely not looking like it's very happy. Alright, so we do have a startup screen now. So not entirely sure what's up with the whole overcurrent thing. We're gonna have to investigate and see what the hell is going on with that. But it does look like we have an AMD Athlon dual core processor, 5600. It does look like we're dealing with 2 gigs of DDR2 RAM. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna get this thing unhooked, tear this thing apart, and see what the hell is going on the inside. So right off the bat, on the inside, this thing is it's pretty nasty. So we'll go ahead and remove some of these panels and see what else we got going on. Okay, so I don't think that you can see it on camera, but we do have a RAM stick that is sitting out a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna push this in, get it fully latched, and then we're gonna go ahead and retest it and see if we can't get into the BIOS without that overcurrent issue. All right, so we got this thing all re-hooked up. We're gonna go ahead and power it on and see if we cannot get into the BIOS real fast. I know it's kind of hooked up all haphazard like, but don't really have much of a choice, unfortunately. See if I can't find the power button here. There we go. So we got our fan spinning up. Just look how filthy that cooler is. That's so nasty. But are we going to get picture on the screen? All right, you guys, so with that RAM module properly seated, we were able to get into our BIOS here. We can see what we're working with, the AMD Athlon 64X2. It is a dual core. It is running at 2800 megahertz, but that's about all this BIOS shows. We have no hardware monitor, so we can't check our temps, unfortunately, but not a big deal. We're definitely going to be adding some thermal paste to this thing, and for a dual core, this thing does have quite a beefy cooler on it. So we're gonna go ahead, get this thing unplugged, unhooked, all that good stuff, get it back on the operating table, and tear into this thing and see what we're working with. Alright, so now that we know that this system appears to work, we're going to go ahead and start stripping out all the parts in here, get everything a nice clean, see what kind of RAM we're dealing with. We're definitely going to be upgrading this thing. I think I can get this up to 8 gigs of DDR2 RAM, and I'm pretty sure that I can at least get a GT 1030 in here. I know that's the internet's most hated graphics card, but when used in the correct circumstances, it will be perfect for a build like this. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start getting this thing apart. So first up is going to be our RAM. So it looks like we are dealing with Samsung DDR2 1 gigabyte sticks, so 2 gigs total. Definitely not going to do for what we plan on doing with this thing. So we're going to go ahead and set these guys off to the side and continue with the teardown. Okay, so I have all of my cables disconnected here, and now that I can actually see what it is that's going on the inside right here, I'm going to tell you guys right now, this thing is absolutely disgusting on the inside. There is dust all over the place. We have all kinds of dust bunnies down here. Our power supply is almost completely plugged up. Our CPU cooler is, I would say, like 60-70% of the way plugged up. It looks absolutely disgusting. So we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna get this motherboard out of here, we're gonna get the power supply out, and then see what our thermal paste looks like on our CPU. Alright, so this is our power supply. This thing is absolutely disgusting. This thing's nasty. I hate touching stuff like this. But anyways, we're looking at 250 watt slim power supply here. This will be more than enough for what we plan on doing. We're gonna go ahead, set this off the side. I will be cleaning it off camera, but we're gonna see what our thermal paste looks like on our motherboard. All right, so we got our cooler off here, and this thing looks absolutely disgusting. As per usual, I'll go ahead and give this a nice good clean off camera, but check this out. There is absolutely zero thermal paste on this CPU. I don't know how that happens, or if somebody installed it like that. I don't know how this thing was running for as long as it has been. I am definitely mind boggled at the fact that there's no thermal paste on here. Zero, zip, nada. So we'll go ahead and give this all a nice good clean off camera, and then we'll get some thermal paste on here. All right, so now that we got the fan off, look at how disgusting this is. This thing is damn near completely plugged up, and look at this fan. You guys, if you have a PC, always maintain it. You do not want your components to end up looking like this. This is pure neglect. I feel so bad for this poor thing. All right, so now we got everything nice and cleaned off here. We're gonna go ahead, we're gonna get some thermal paste on here, but before we do that, let's just go ahead and take a second and appreciate how well these components clean up. So off camera, this only took me about 20, maybe 25 minutes to actually 100% clean it, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So we're gonna go ahead and get some thermal paste on here and get this thing all back together, and then I'm gonna show you guys the upgrades that I plan on sticking in this whole gal. All right, so there is our thermal paste. Probably a little too much, but to me, that is perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and get our cooler back on here. And just like that, she is ready to go. Let's go ahead and take a look at the RAM and GPU that I plan on putting in this whole gal. So first up is our RAM. We're looking at a total of 8 gigabytes of OCZ 1066 DDR2 RAM. We do have our other two modules down here, so we'll be able to at least run in dual channel. And then next up, we have an MSI GT 1030. I know a lot of people do not like this card, but again, when this is used in the proper circumstances, this is actually a really good budget card. And for my intended use today, this graphics card is going to be absolutely perfect. So when I come back, you guys, we're gonna have this thing all back together. We're gonna have Windows 10 installed with a bunch of games. All right, you guys, so we got this thing all back together, and she looks killer. This thing looks so freaking good. There was even an awesome little spot here for my new SSD. We are running a 500 gigabyte T-Force Vulcan SSD. It just looks so good sitting right there. I did have to go with a different GPU. I discovered that my GT 1030 was actually missing a fuse off the back, and it would not work. So I tried it in my editing PC, and it would give me picture out on the screen. However, it would not download drivers. It would take the driver, but it would just go to a black screen and it would sit there. So quite unfortunate. So we are going with a GTX 745. This is a 4 gig variant. This is actually, it's an okay card. It's good for desktop use and maybe some light gaming, but I think for what we plan on doing today, this will probably be just fine. I did actually feature this in a previous video, and we ended up swapping out this card for something else. So hopefully this thing can get a little bit of redemption today and show us what it can do. With that being said, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna try and power this thing on and see if we can get into Windows. So our fans are spinning up. Do we get picture on the screen? Come on, there we go. Does it load into Windows? All right, and we are into Windows. So when I come back, we will have a bunch of games installed on here, and we're gonna see what this old dual core can do. All right, folks, so our first game is going to be Diablo 3. And if you guys have been watching the channel for a while, you know that I love testing this game. This is always a good baseline testing game to see where I stand with the system that I plan on testing. How we sit right now, we're getting right around 30 FPS. So far, it looks like it's, you know, relatively playable. It's not bad at all. I'm seeing instances where it does jump up into the 40s with a little bit of stuttering here and there. It is pretty minute. It's not too bad. I do notice that once you get into heavier areas with enemies and whatnot, it might dip down below 30 FPS, but overall it's still playable. Minus the hitching and a little bit of lag spikes here and there, but again, it's still playable. So definitely not bad for our first game. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to the next game. So our next game is going to be Kanjo Zoku. I actually featured this game in our last video. This is another good one just to kind of see where you're at with the system. This is a Fast and Furious style game, just kind of weaving in and out of traffic, challenge other people to little street races, and overall it's, you know, a good time passer. Now one thing I do want to note before people go crazy down in the comments is when it comes to these DDR2 systems, I notice that I don't get all of my feedback here that I want. Mainly right now it is the temperatures that it's not reading for me, and I did want to show you guys something real quick. So if we go into our MSI Afterburner, you'll see that there's absolutely no reading on this card. I'm not entirely sure why that is. I've uninstalled it and reinstalled it several times. I get nothing from here. And then if you go into the monitor here, you can see I have everything checked, minus a few things. But if you look, you will see that there is no monitor for temps. So if anybody knows how to add that, that would be fantastic. Let me know down in the comments below. So back on to testing. So just on the loading screen, I see we're getting right around 30 FPS. Let's see what happens when we get into the game. All right, so we are out on the streets here. Looks like we are getting relatively good FPS. We're running just right around 50 FPS, totally acceptable. This is medium and low settings. Render scale is at about 60%. Textures is about 50%. It's not the most visually appealing. However, it is playable, and it's actually quite snappy and responsive. And I'm getting my butt passed up by everybody because I'm in the slow Honda. But overall, not bad. You could definitely have some fun with this. As you can tell, I passed that guy. He's a lot faster than me. So, you could even be competitive. Not bad at all. For a DDR2 system to play newer games like this, it's pretty cool. So, we're going to go ahead and move on to our third game. Alright, so next up, and forgive me if I say this wrong, but Damon X Machina, or Machina. This game is a lot like Gundam. If anybody's familiar with Gundam, it's pretty much the exact same thing. It's got pretty cool combat, really cool Gundam-like machines that you pilot. Overall, pretty cool combat game. You can actually play this online as well. I am just in the opening mission, so there's not a whole lot of content here. But this gives you guys a general idea of how well it actually runs. And keep in mind, this is on a DDR2 system, so rather impressive. We're hovering between 40 and 50 FPS. These are all medium settings. All testing is done at 1080p, and there's one thing I did want to mention that I forgot to mention. This is something I've seen in the comments about people telling me that I need to update the BIOS. Obviously, you know, you'll get better performance or utilize the full potential of your motherboard and CPU and RAM and all that good stuff. All systems that I do are always going to have the latest BIOS for that motherboard. That's kind of common sense. It's a given. It's just not something that I really go into when it comes to making these videos, because that's boring. I don't want you guys to get bored. But obviously this game runs pretty damn good. We're hovering right around 60 FPS now, getting, you know, 70 to 80% utilization on our GPU. There is definitely somewhat of a bottleneck from our CPU, unfortunately. But yeah, not bad. 100% playable. I'd call this a win. Let's go ahead and move on to our next game. Alright you guys, so next up is The Long Drive. This is a game that's come out within the past few years. This is always a demanding game. This will definitely, you know, for an indie game, it will test your system. And I'm getting quite a pleasant surprise here. We're running right around 60 FPS. We are only getting about 50% utilization on our GTX 745. So again, we have quite the bottleneck going on here. But it's extremely smooth, extremely playable. I'm getting no lagging, no hitching, no nothing. And this is all low settings. Distance render is turned all the way down. But still very playable, very enjoyable. Pleasantly surprising. This is not bad at all. I would say if you're on a very tight budget, this would be one hell of a little system. Although when it comes to these older systems, you know, there's not really much of an upgrade path. Obviously, you can upgrade from its time, but, you know, you're going to be extremely limited as to what games you can play. Granted, this will probably still play a good amount of games. You just have to be willing to make sacrifices in terms of quality and quite often performance. But for a DDR2 system that's nearly 20 years old, this is a banger. This thing is absolutely still viable in 2025. So I think with this game, you guys, this is going to be our last one. We're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. My overall impressions of this thing is it's an absolutely good PC. Nothing wrong with it. Did not deserve to be an e-waste. If you're not a gamer, this would work perfect for YouTube, Netflix, movies, whatever. 100% a usable system. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Yes, I'm missing my beanie. It is too freaking hot today. It's like 90 to 100 degrees outside. I am absolutely cooking. Even the AC is struggling to keep up, so no hat today. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for joining me here. I appreciate the views, the subs, and all the amazing comments from all you guys. You're all beautiful people. Until next time, I will catch you guys in the next video. Stay safe in the world.